Welcome, architects and tech leads. Today, we are diving into how to standardize your team's development workflows using CLAUDE.md files. Let's get started. Let's begin by understanding what CLAUDE.md actually is. When you start Claude Code in a fresh terminal, it has no idea what framework you're using or what your team's coding standards are. If you don't use a configuration file, you will waste valuable time and tokens constantly reminding Claude to use TypeScript or follow ESLint ABMB guidelines. That is the why behind CLAUDE.md. It serves as an automated onboarding script that gives Claude Code persistent memory about your project conventions. How does it work? You simply drop a CLAUDE.md file into your directory and write your rules in plain Markdown. However, as senior architects, we must recognize a critical deep dive point. Everything in this file consumes your context window. If you dump an 800-line monolithic rulebook into the root file, you will exhaust Claude's attention and degrade its coding performance. Take a look at this high-level execution flow. On the left, we have the developer's ad hoc prompt. But notice the second input, the CLAUDE.md memory file. The Claude Code engine automatically merges these two sources before making any API calls. This means every action Claude takes is filtered through the persistent rules you've defined, guaranteeing context-aware execution without manual repetition. To manage team configurations effectively, you must master the three-layer hierarchy. Claude Code doesn't just read one file, it reads a cascade of files. First is the user level, sitting in your home directory. This is exclusively for your personal preferences, like terminal themes or editor bindings. Second is the project level, stored in the .claude folder of your repository. This is the heart of your team's shared standards and must be committed to Git. Finally, we have the directory level for module-specific rules, like putting an API validation standard inside your src/API folder. The deep dive here is overriding precedence. The closer the configuration is to the code being edited, the higher its priority. Directory-level rules will actively override project-level rules, which in turn override your personal user-level settings. This inverted pyramid diagram perfectly illustrates the precedence of configuration layers. At the bottom, we have the user level, which casts the widest but weakest net. Above it is the project level, enforcing team standards. At the very top is the directory level, which holds the highest precedence. If your user file says use double quotes, but the project file says use single quotes, the project file wins because it is higher up in the scoping hierarchy. Now that we understand the hierarchy, we need to address the most heavily tested anti-patterns that architects encounter. The biggest mistake is leaking personal preferences into the project configuration. If you write always explain code using Vim terminology inside the team's shared .claude/claude.md, you have just forced that behavior onto every other developer when they pull the repo. That belongs strictly in your user-level file. The second massive anti-pattern is the monolithic file. Writing an 800-line Claude.md file that covers everything from database migrations to CSS naming conventions is a disaster. It bloats the context window and triggers the lost in the middle effect, meaning Claude will simply ignore the rules buried in the center of the file. You must keep your configurations lean and modular. Look at the red paths in this diagram highlighting the dangers of configuration anti-patterns. On the top path, committing user preferences to the shared project file directly frustrates teammates by hijacking their local AI experience. On the bottom path, the 800-line monolith leads straight to context degradation, wasting your API costs and rendering the AI unreliable. Avoid these traps at all costs. To solve the monolithic file problem, Claude Code offers a powerful modularity feature, the @import syntax. What is this? It's a way to dynamically include external Markdown files into your root configuration. Instead of writing all your testing, deployment, and API design rules in one massive file, you create a lightweight root.claude/claude.md. Inside it, you use the @import directive, followed by the path to a specialized file, such as /rules/testing.md. Why does this matter? Because it allows you to organize your team's knowledge. Your QA lead can own and update the testing.md file, while your backend lead maintains API-design.md. At runtime, Claude seamlessly merges these imports into the context window, giving you a clean, maintainable architecture that scales with your engineering team. This graph visualizes the modular @import architecture. Your root Claude.md file sits cleanly at the top, acting as a router. It branches out to import specific Markdown files for testing, API design, and security. Notice how each imported file encapsulates its own specific domain standards. This keeps version control histories clean and ensures your rule repository remains scalable and easy to read for both humans and Claude. Let's deep dive into one of the most sophisticated configuration techniques, path-specific rules. Imagine your test files are scattered across 50 different directories. Putting a CLAUDE.md file in every single directory is impossible. The elegant solution is to use the .claude/rules/directory with YAML front matter. By defining a paths array with a glob pattern like /.test.tsx, you instruct Claude to conditionally load this rule file. Why is this superior? Because it guarantees extreme context efficiency. If a developer asks Claude to update a database schema, the testing rules are completely omitted from the context window, saving tokens and focus. But the second Claude touches a test file, the rules dynamically load. It is surgical, conditional context targeting. Follow the conditional logic in this flowchart. When Claude Code begins editing a file, it checks the file path against the glob patterns defined in your .claude/rules/directory. If the file matches the /.test.tsx pattern, the testing rules are actively injected into the context window. If it's just a standard server.ts file, the rules are skipped entirely. This dynamic injection keeps Claude laser-focused on the immediate task context. Let's apply all of this to a real-time, highly practical use case, standardizing a 20-person engineering team working in a React and Node.js monorepo. Step 1. We instruct all developers to keep their personal editor themes in their own user-level config. Step 2. The lead architect commits a project-level CLAUDE.md establishing global TypeScript rules and imports a shared Git commit standard. Step 3. Because the frontend is localized, we create a path-specific rule for apps/web// that strictly enforces React Hook's best practices. Finally, Step 4, we drop a directory-level CLAUDE.md into the backend API folder to enforce strict payload validation. The outcome, as Claude navigates your monorepo, it seamlessly shapeshifts. When editing the frontend, it writes perfect React. When it jumps to the backend, it writes secure API code. Total alignment, zero token waste. This architecture diagram visualizes our monorepo setup. The monorepo root houses the global .claude/claude.md, ensuring baseline TypeScript compliance across the board. From there, the repository splits. The apps/web/branch is governed by a dynamic path rule enforcing React hooks, while the apps/API/branch is governed by a hard directory rule enforcing ZOD validation. The global rules cascade down and merge flawlessly with the localized constraints. To wrap up our training, you need to know how to debug your configurations. If Claude is ignoring a rule, simply type the /command/memory in your terminal. This will output a list of exactly which configuration files are actively loaded in your current session, allowing you to instantly spot scoping errors. A massive best practice: do not proactively write 100 rules. Start with 0, and only add a rule to CLAUDE.md when you see Claude make a repeated mistake. This keeps your configuration naturally lean. Finally, remember to never commit secrets into these files. Thank you for joining this masterclass on Claude Code configurations. I invite all learners to like, subscribe, and visit quicktechie.com for premium certification prep, including Q&A banks, full ebooks, audiobooks, full-length training, and interview guides. This final mind map is your ultimate cheat sheet for configuring team workflows. It visually anchors the 4 pillars of CLAUDE.md mastery, the strict hierarchy of user, project, and directory, the modularity enabled by the import syntax, the surgical precision of path scoping using glob patterns, and finally, validation through the memory command. Commit this framework to memory, and you will architect flawless AI development environments.
Welcome to quicktechie.com. So just type in quicktechie.com here. Then you can go through the material which is provided by Quicktechie. So we have first of all video courses which you can go here and you can find the various video courses across the technologies as well as finance domain. So if you see in Microsoft, we have 8 programs currently running. Next, you can go through the ebooks available. So all the ebooks which are in PDF format today, and you can download this. So let me go through Microsoft certification ebooks. You can click on any of this and you can see this is the PDF available for you to download. So these are the premium ebook mostly available on quicktechie.com platform only. Now the second part is exam simulator. As we primarily focus on the all technology companies and finance domain certification preparation material. So this is company wide listed here and you can go through this. So let me go through the Microsoft one again. You can see these are all Microsoft related certification. AB 730 exam, if you open it, so you can see here this and all the the practice papers are available here. Today we have a 5 practice paper. So click on the first practice paper. It would load the questions. You can answer this question. This is way you can answer it and you can move to the next question. Now, third material we wanted to highlight is an audiobook. So we started recently with the audiobooks as well, which you can listen on the go, and various technology wise ebooks are available. And at the last, this is our alumni. These people who are subscribing to our courses and this platform, they are all listed here. And at the end, I wanted to tell you, if you find any course or training or certification preparation material which you want to get us prepared for yourself, please put on the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, on Udemy, or on this platform itself, quicktechie.com, then please put the comment, or you can even send an email to using this contact us options here. You can directly do the WhatsApp message. You can call us on this numbers as well.